Palpatine wasn't just dead, he was obliterated and then just comes back after no foreshadowing, no precedent for something like this happening, and just a throwaway line after he comes back to explain how the fuck he did that.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
And I think that's pretty impressive. It is a line that single-handedly ruins the entire movie.
Never has so much rested on the shoulders of one movie. Never has the entire entertainment world held its breath in collective anticipation. But does it succeed in this most Herculean of tasks? No, it doesn't succeed at all, in anything. The Rise of Skywalker is a complete, total, and unmitigated disaster. A hollow shell of nothingness, with no heart, no soul, and no meaning.
So after years of avoiding it, I finally bit the bullet and watched The Rise of Skywalker. I decided to talk about it. I know, this movie has been discussed to death, but I noticed some things and I thought they should be said. Now, because of the fact that I spent so much time watching reviews of this movie over the past couple years since it came out, I came across 5 main questions in a lot of these videos. How did Palpatine return? Cloning is a Sith secret. Holdo maneuvers are 1 in a million. Ships don't know the way up. Ochi's knife lines up with the Death Star. And finally, most importantly, who is the Skywalker rising in the movie? In this video, I'm going to give the answers to all of these questions as best I can and try to rectify some of the problems with this movie. I'll leave timestamps in the description, so if you want to skip to a specific question, you can. Without further ado, let's get right into it. How did Palpatine return? So, in the movie, the only explanation we get is the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some may consider unnatural, which is to say, we don't get an explanation. So, to explain this, we have to draw some details from Legends, which this movie does in spades. And take a look at the storyline that this movie is loosely based on, Dark Empire. In this comic, Darth Sidious has a bank of clones similar to the way he has a bank of Snokes in the movie. I never said this was a good comic. He uses an ability called Essence Transfer to transfer his spirit from body to body. The only reason I'm willing to accept this is the fact that Palpatine is trying to get Rey to kill him so that he can possess her. The fact that she needs to kill him to be possessed is dumb, given how he just needed a stronger will and he could just possess him that way in the comic, but whatever. But of course, they didn't explain it in the movie, that's why I'm speculating here. Cloning is a Sith secret. This is one of the hardest parts to rationalize in the movie, but I think I have the best answer possible given what we have. Quite honestly, I think this was JJ messing up, but the point of this video is try to fix some of the questions and answer to the best of my ability. So I really think that this plot point is best explained by simply writing it off as facts being skewed the more they get spread. You know, play a game of telephone. I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. We've seen a lot of examples in Legends where the story of how Darth Vader got redeemed got really skewed. Some people thought that Luke took them both on at the same time. Some people just thought outlandish things because the story just got skewed. Holdo maneuvers are 1 in a million. This point was something in the movie. I had a previous theory about Holdo being a Jedi apprentice who had been trained by Leia, and that's how she was able to accomplish a 1 in a million fleet. But no, it turns out the Raddus, the ship that Holdo used, had experimental shields, and that's what destroyed the ships. How did I learn this? A video about The Last Jedi's novelization. Why was this not in the movie? Just say the 1 in a million line and then say the shields on that ship made it possible and we don't have those ships because the First Order destroyed them. Yeah, this movie's pretty bad. Ships don't know the way up? Okay. I think this is hyperbole and people are just taking it super literal. I don't think that he meant that they don't understand the direction of up. I think that he just meant they wouldn't be able to navigate it, and so many people just took it at absolute face value. Ochi's knife lines up with a Death Star piece? I got nothing. This is the worst part of the movie. The Death Star was completely destroyed. There was not a piece that big after the explosion. JJ claims to have this big love of the original trilogy, but this Death Star piece is completely regarding the end of that same trilogy, and it isn't even the worst example of that in the movie. Who is the Skywalker rising? Well, this is the most intriguing part of this movie, given that every Skywalker was dead before this movie started. I know that Leia is the daughter of Anakin, but she is an Organa and then a Solo. Only a Skywalker by blood and not really a part of the legacy. At least not the way that Luke was. I know that even matters in the long run, because by the end of this movie, every descendant of Anakin is dead, meaning that we are left questioning again. Who was the Skywalker Rising? Well, the easy answer is that it's Rey because she called herself a Skywalker, but it's called Rise of Skywalker, not Rise of a Skywalker, so that answer wasn't good enough for me. So I took a walk, thought about it, and came to a conclusion. The Rising Skywalker was not a Skywalker at all. It was the legacy of the Skywalker name Rising. Rising to become something more than a name, to become a mantle, to be passed on, and the current holder is Rey, which is why she is now Rey Skywalker. She's lost her Palpatine name completely. Yeah, it's stupid, but this movie is stupid, so what did you expect? So this is where the script ended originally, but I really want to talk about Star Wars as a whole to take a look at where the franchise is headed and what took us on this road. So as we all know, Star Wars was bought in 2013 for $13 billion, and they decided to end the Legends timeline and make a new one, which made sense because this timeline is a very nearly complete story, but the only thing missing in my eyes was a sufficient end to Luke's story. Could have ended with the defeat of Abeloth when Luke said that he was really hurt, but Mara told him to keep on living, and they also needed a sufficient length to Legacy Volume 2, which was forced down from a 50-issue length to an 18-issue length, and is currently the canonical end to the Legends timeline. After the retcon, Disney had a clean slate, and soon announced they would be making a new Star Wars movie. I, being a young kid at the time, was over the moon. I couldn't wait, and despite being originally tricked into thinking this clip of Jedi and Sith running at each other was a leaked clip of the trailer, when I finally saw the trailer, I was beyond hype. Something about the way Finn was walking in the desert I later learned was Jakku drew me in so much. Then the movie came out. I didn't see it until it came out on DVD and it had already been spoiled on Han Solo dying. But I still enjoyed the movie, and when the movie ended without Luke saying a word, me and my mom both voiced our disbelief at it happening, but the movie had caught our attention and we couldn't wait for the next one. After watching The Last Jedi, I honestly enjoyed it, but that was mainly because of the visuals. My main complaints about the movie were Admiral Holdo hating on Poe for literally no reason, and Luke dying the way that he did. But I didn't realize the problem to his character, and to this day, I'd still say that him being super cynical would have been okay if it was set up in any type of way, but it wasn't. Now when this movie came out, the videos explaining the problems with it flooded in, and the more I watched, the more I became more and more cynical towards Disney Star Wars, and by the time The Rise of Skywalker came out, I had zero interest in it. Here's what brought me back. Lost Stars. It was a new canon book that felt like such a breath of fresh air. I first read it in 2020 after my mom saw the Star Wars label in a bookstore and bought it for me. I honestly wouldn't have picked it up if I was in the store, given that it wasn't EU material, but I'm sure glad she did. The book itself was pretty good. My only real complaint was the fact that the metaphors were so on the nose, but it is a fun read that I do suggest. I'm not going to give any specifics because I really want people to go read it for themselves. After reading this book, I gave Rise of Skywalker a shot and was inevitably disappointed. But I think that Lost Stars is a good example that Disney should take notice of when they're making their next trilogy. Visuals are cool, but you can't have fizz and no soda. 3 movies and all I know about Rey is she's a Palpatine, is really good at stuff, and lived on Jakku for most of her life. Let's compare this to Anakin in the prequels, loving to a fault. A great pilot because he practiced most of his childhood in a pod racer. Yearning for power because he was scared of losing his wife like he lost his mother. Struggling to contain his anger and never being taught a good way to deal with it. Here you get fizz and soda. There's substance to it. It's great to see. I want to see great Star Wars. I know that the potential is here and it can't be reached, but if it ever does, it will have to be made by people who can understand the universe they have. They can just figure out the issues by realizing they're not making science fiction. They're making a space opera. I think that things will start in a better direction. Create great characters and focus on that. The most iconic moment in the entire franchise, and maybe in movie history, is character driven. The end of The Last Jedi is one of the most beautiful scenes I have ever seen, but is undercut by the poor character decisions in the movie. Space battles and lightsaber fights bring people in, but the characters keep them there. Battle of Endor is made so much better with the fact that these people are people you care about and they're in danger, and when you first watch, you don't know who will make it out alive. Anakin fighting Obi-Wan is so impactful knowing that these people were brothers for 13 years. They molded each other. The emotional impact simply was not there for this last trilogy, and unless there are some changes, I'm not sure we'll ever get it. And I want to throw in that based on Palpatine himself saying this, his death would just let him possess Rey, and that means that we have no reason to believe that Rey at the end is not just Palpatine pretending to be Rey and Luke and Leia just didn't pick up on it.
I'm sure I'm going to cry. This is the end of the trilogy. I know there's a lot of haters of Last Jedi. I'm not saying your feelings are invalid, but I still love everything about Star Wars.